There comes a moment in every person's life when they realize that the greatest threat to their peace is not the world itself, but the people they keep allowing into their inner world. Toxic people rarely arrive looking dangerous. They come disguised as friends, family, colleagues, or even those who claim to love you. They slowly drain your energy, cloud your judgment, weaken your confidence, and leave you questioning your own worth. Yet the truth is simple. No one can disturb a mind that has mastered itself. The ancient Shaolin teachings remind us that true strength is not found in defeating others, but in becoming impossible to control. The moment you stop reacting, stop seeking validation, and stop feeding unnecessary conflict, toxic people lose their greatest weapon against you. In today's message, we will explore one powerful inner shift that can permanently change how others affect your life. This is not about fighting, arguing, or proving yourself. It is about becoming so grounded in wisdom that negativity can no longer find a place to live within you. Toxic people do not possess extraordinary power. Their influence exists only as long as they are allowed to occupy space inside your thoughts. Many people believe they suffer because of someone else's words, actions, or behavior. But in reality, suffering often continues because the mind refuses to let go. A single insult may last only a few seconds, yet the memory of it can replay for years. This is not because the other person continues speaking, but because your own mind has become the echo chamber of their negativity. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack filled with stones. Every criticism, every betrayal, every disappointment becomes another stone added to the load. At first, the weight feels manageable, but over time your shoulders ache, your steps become slower, and your spirit grows tired. The toxic person placed only one stone inside, yet you continued collecting the rest yourself by replaying the experience over and over again. Freedom begins the moment you refuse to carry what no longer belongs to you. Most toxic individuals survive on emotional reactions. They expect anger because anger proves they still have influence. They expect endless explanations because explanations reveal that they still occupy your attention. They expect you to defend yourself because every defense keeps you emotionally connected to the conflict. When they see your peace disappear, they feel powerful. When they see your emotions become unstable, they believe they remain important in your life. The greatest mistake is believing that you must win every argument. Many people waste years trying to convince someone who has already decided not to understand them. They search for the perfect words, hoping that one final explanation will suddenly transform another person's heart. Wisdom teaches something different. Not every misunderstanding deserves clarification. Not every accusation deserves a response. Sometimes silence communicates more strength than 1,000 carefully chosen sentences. The Shaolin tradition teaches that mastery begins with observing the mind before attempting to change the world. Every time someone provokes you, pause long enough to notice what is happening within yourself. Does your heartbeat increase? Do your thoughts become chaotic? Do you immediately imagine ways to fight back? These reactions reveal that your inner world is still being controlled from the outside. The true battlefield is never between two people. It exists inside the one who cannot yet remain steady. A calm lake reflects the mountains with perfect clarity because nothing disturbs its surface. Throw stones into that lake and the reflection disappears. Toxic people are constantly throwing stones into your emotional lake. Their goal is not simply to create conflict. Their goal is to keep your inner waters permanently disturbed so that you lose clarity. When your emotions become turbulent, your decisions become weaker. You speak carelessly, you act impulsively, you regret what you say. In this state, they have already succeeded. Real strength is not pretending that pain does not exist. It is refusing to let pain become your identity. Every difficult interaction becomes an opportunity to strengthen emotional discipline. Instead of asking why someone behaves so negatively, ask why their behavior still has permission to influence your peace. This question shifts responsibility back where it belongs. You cannot control another person's character, but you can decide how much access they receive to your emotional world. Many people confuse kindness with unlimited availability. They believe being compassionate requires saying yes to everyone, listening endlessly, forgiving without wisdom, and sacrificing their own well-being. But kindness without boundaries eventually becomes self-neglect. Compassion should never require abandoning yourself. Every healthy relationship contains respect. When respect disappears repeatedly, distance becomes an act of wisdom rather than cruelty. Notice how the strongest trees survive powerful storms. They do not chase the wind, argue with the rain, or complain about changing seasons. Their roots simply grow deeper. Likewise, every encounter with difficult people can either weaken you or deepen your inner foundation. The difference depends entirely on where your attention remains. If your attention stays focused on their behavior, your peace depends on them changing. If your attention returns to strengthening your own mind, your peace becomes independent of their choices. One powerful practice is learning to pause before responding. That small space between stimulus and response is where freedom lives. Most people react automatically because emotions move faster than wisdom. They answer immediately, defend themselves instantly, and regret their words later. A disciplined mind creates distance before action. Within that distance, clarity appears. You realize that not every invitation to conflict deserves acceptance. The more emotionally independent you become, the less interesting you appear to toxic individuals. They seek easy emotional rewards. When they discover that their criticism produces no chaos, their manipulation creates no guilt, and their drama receives no participation, they naturally search elsewhere. Your greatest protection is not becoming intimidating. It is becoming emotionally unavailable to unnecessary conflict. Your attention is your most valuable resource. Wherever attention goes, energy follows. If every morning begins by remembering someone who hurt you, then they continue shaping your life without even being present. Reclaiming your attention means reclaiming your future. Every moment spent building discipline, wisdom, gratitude, patience, and inner stillness is a moment no longer invested in resentment. Eventually, you discover something extraordinary. Toxic people did not disappear because you changed them. They disappeared because you stopped offering the emotional reactions they were searching for. The door remained open before because your mind invited them inside. Once that invitation ended, their influence quietly faded, not through force, but through your unwavering commitment to inner peace. Silence is often misunderstood as weakness. Many people believe that if you do not respond immediately, you have lost. They think strength is measured by the loudness of your voice, the sharpness of your words, or your ability to win every argument. But true strength is something much quieter. It is the ability to remain composed when everyone around you expects you to lose control. This kind of silence is not fear. It is discipline. It is the silence of a person who knows that peace is worth more than proving a point. The world is filled with noise. Every day, people compete for attention, validation, and the final word. Toxic individuals especially thrive in this environment because they know that every emotional reaction gives them exactly what they seek. The more you explain yourself, the more they argue. The more you defend yourself, the more they accuse. The more energy you invest in convincing them, the more they enjoy having power over your emotions. They are not searching for truth. They are searching for a reaction. Shi Heng Yi often reminds us that the strongest warrior is not the one who defeats others, but the one who has learned to govern himself. Governing yourself begins with controlling your tongue before it controls you. Words once spoken cannot be taken back. A single sentence said in anger can damage years of trust. A few moments of uncontrolled emotion can create consequences that last a lifetime. Silence gives wisdom the time it needs to arrive before emotion takes over. Think about a mountain standing through every season. Storms crash against it, winds howl around it, rain pours relentlessly, yet the mountain remains exactly where it is. It does not argue with the weather. It does not demand that the storm stop. It simply stands firm because its strength comes from within. Your mind must become like that mountain. Let criticism come and go. Let opinions rise and disappear. Let negativity pass like clouds across the sky. None of these things can move you unless you allow them to. Many people react because they mistake every opinion for a personal attack. They hear criticism and immediately feel the need to defend themselves. They hear gossip and rush to correct every misunderstanding. They hear false accusations and become consumed with clearing their name. But wisdom teaches that not every voice deserves your attention. Some people have already decided what they believe before you even speak. No amount of explanation can change your mind that refuses to listen. Silence also protects your emotional energy. Every argument demands attention, time, and mental effort. Even after the conversation ends, your mind often continues replaying it. Hours later, you think of better responses. Days later, you still feel frustrated. Meanwhile, your energy could have been invested in your goals, your family, your health, or your personal growth. The hidden cost of constant reaction is not just emotional exhaustion. It is the loss of opportunities to build a better life. This does not mean silence is always appropriate. There are moments when truth must be spoken, when injustice must be challenged, and when protecting yourself requires clear communication. However, wisdom teaches you to distinguish between necessary words and unnecessary battles. Many conflicts are invitations to emotional chaos disguised as important conversations. Learning the difference is one of the greatest forms of maturity. Observe how nature communicates. The deepest rivers make the least noise. The tallest trees continue growing without announcing their progress. The sun rises every morning without asking for applause. Nature teaches that true power does not need constant recognition. Likewise, a disciplined person does not feel the need to explain every decision or justify every action. Their life becomes the evidence of their character. One of the greatest signs of inner growth is becoming comfortable with being misunderstood. This is difficult because the human ego wants approval. It wants everyone to recognize its intentions and appreciate its efforts. But no matter how kind you are, someone will criticize you. No matter how honest you become, someone will question your motives. If your happiness depends on universal acceptance, you will spend your entire life chasing something that does not exist. Silence also creates space for observation. When you stop speaking, you begin seeing. You notice patterns in people's behavior. You recognize who truly listens and who only waits for their turn to talk. You discover who respects your boundaries and who repeatedly ignores them. You learn that people reveal themselves more clearly when you stop interrupting them with your own reactions. There is another hidden strength within silence. It prevents unnecessary regret. Most people do not regret the words they withheld in wisdom. They regret the words they released in anger. Emotional reactions are temporary, but spoken words often become permanent memories. Every moment of restraint protects your future from decisions made in emotional blindness. Imagine carrying a cup filled to the very top with water. Every small bump causes the water to spill. This is how an undisciplined mind behaves. Every insult, inconvenience, or disagreement causes emotional overflow. But a disciplined mind becomes like a deep lake. Even when stones are thrown into it, the surface eventually becomes still again. Its depth gives it stability. People who constantly provoke others often become confused when they encounter someone who refuses to participate. They expect anger and receive calmness. They expect arguments and receive silence. They expect emotional weakness and instead meet quiet confidence. Over time, they lose interest because manipulation only succeeds when someone agrees to play the game. Silence is not about suppressing emotions, it is about mastering them. You still feel disappointment, frustration, and pain, but you no longer allow those emotions to become your master. Instead of reacting immediately, you observe them, you breathe through them, you understand that emotions are temporary visitors, not permanent rulers of your life. The greatest freedom comes when your peace is no longer controlled by someone else's behavior. At that moment, silence becomes more than the absence of words. It becomes the presence of wisdom, patience, and unwavering self-mastery. It becomes the quiet confidence of a person who understands that every unnecessary reaction is a piece of life that can never be reclaimed, and every moment of calm restraint is another step toward becoming truly unshakable. One of the greatest misunderstandings in life is believing that being a good person means being available to everyone. Many people spend years saying yes when they want to say no, accepting disrespect to avoid conflict, and sacrificing their own peace to keep others comfortable. They believe this is kindness, but over time they discover that endless sacrifice without healthy boundaries does not create stronger relationships. It creates exhaustion. The person who never protects their peace eventually has no peace left to give. A boundary is not a wall built out of hatred. It is a gate built with wisdom. It does not exist to keep everyone out. It exists to allow the right people in while preventing repeated harm from entering your life. Nature itself teaches this lesson. Every tree has bark that protects it. Every home has doors that can be opened or closed. Every temple has an entrance, not because it rejects people, but because sacred places deserve protection. Your mind deserves that same level of care. Many toxic relationships continue for one reason: there are no consequences for unhealthy behavior. When someone repeatedly insults you, ignores your feelings, manipulates your emotions, or disrespects your time, and you continue accepting it without change, you silently teach them that their behavior is acceptable. People often repeat what is tolerated. This is why boundaries are not only acts of self-respect. They are also teachers. They show others how they may treat you. The difficulty is that boundaries often make people uncomfortable. Those who benefited from your lack of limits may accuse you of becoming selfish, cold, or distant. They may question your character because they were accustomed to unlimited access to your energy. But remember this: a person who becomes angry because you established a healthy boundary or often benefiting from the absence of one. Shi Heng Yi teaches that discipline begins with yourself before it influences the world around you. Establishing boundaries requires the same discipline. It is easy to say yes because yes avoids temporary discomfort. It is much harder to say no with calm confidence when someone expects you to always give in. Yet every time you choose short-term comfort over long-term peace, you pay a hidden price. That price is your emotional energy. Imagine a beautiful garden filled with flowers. Without a fence, anyone can walk in, step on the plants, remove the fruit, or leave behind weeds. Eventually, the garden loses its beauty. But once the gardener places a simple boundary around it, the flowers begin to flourish again. The fence does not exist because the gardener hates people. It exists because growth requires protection. Your inner life is no different. Your peace, confidence, and purpose are like flowers. Without boundaries, they become vulnerable to constant damage. Many people confuse forgiveness with continued access. Forgiving someone does not mean allowing them to repeat the same behavior indefinitely. Forgiveness frees your heart from resentment. Boundaries protect your future from repeated harm. These two ideas work together. You can release anger without reopening the door to unnecessary suffering. Another challenge is the fear of disappointing others. The desire to be liked often causes people to abandon themselves. They attend gatherings they do not want to attend. They answer messages immediately out of guilt. They solve problems that are not theirs to solve. They carry responsibilities that belong to someone else. Slowly, their own dreams become secondary because they spend their lives managing everyone else's expectations. But consider this question: if protecting your peace disappoints someone, whose responsibility is that disappointment? You are responsible for acting with respect, honesty, and kindness. You are not responsible for controlling how others interpret your healthy decisions. People are free to have opinions, but you are equally free to protect your well-being. Boundaries also apply to your time. Time is the one resource that cannot be replaced. Money can return, possessions can be recovered, opportunities may come again, but once a day has passed, it belongs to history forever. Every unnecessary conversation, every meaningless argument, and every emotionally draining interaction consumes moments you will never regain. Learning to say, "I cannot give my time to this," is one of the highest forms of self-respect. Notice how successful and peaceful people value their attention. They understand that attention is life itself. Whatever repeatedly captures your attention eventually shapes your character. If toxic people occupy your thoughts every day, they continue influencing your life even when they are absent. Boundaries are not only physical, they are mental. Sometimes the most important boundary is refusing to let someone's behavior leave entry inside your mind. There will always be people who test your limits. Some will pressure you with guilt, others will use anger. Some may even attempt to manipulate you by questioning your loyalty or kindness. These moments reveal whether your boundaries are real or merely temporary wishes. A true boundary remains calm under pressure. It does not become aggressive. It does not seek revenge. It simply remains consistent. Consistency is what transforms boundaries into habits. If you enforce a limit one day and abandon it the next, confusion replaces clarity. But when your actions consistently reflect your values, people begin to understand where you stand. Those who genuinely respect you will adapt. Those who refuse often reveal that they valued your usefulness more than your well-being. One of the most powerful forms of boundary is emotional detachment from unnecessary conflict. You cannot stop someone from speaking negatively about you, but you can stop allowing their words to determine your worth. You cannot control another person's attitude, but you can choose not to carry it with you. Emotional boundaries are invisible, yet they are often stronger than physical distance. They remind you that another person's behavior belongs to them, not to you. As your boundaries become stronger, something unexpected happens. You begin attracting healthier relationships. Respectful people appreciate clarity because they understand mutual respect. They do not demand unlimited access to your energy. They recognize your need for rest, focus, and personal growth. Healthy relationships grow stronger when both people honor each other's limits. Eventually, you realize that boundaries are not barriers to love. They are the foundation of it. They allow kindness without self-sacrifice, generosity without resentment, and compassion without emotional depletion. A peaceful life is not created by pleasing everyone around you. It is created by having the wisdom to know where your responsibility ends and where another person's begins. Protecting your inner world with quiet confidence while continuing to treat others with dignity, respect, and unwavering self-respect. One of the quietest sources of suffering is the constant desire to be understood. Many people spend years trying to explain their intentions, defend their decisions, and convince others that they are good enough. They hope that if they can just find the right words, everyone will finally see them clearly. But wisdom teaches a different lesson. Not everyone is meant to understand your journey, and your peace should never depend on their approval. The need to be understood is deeply connected to the need for validation. From childhood, we learn to seek acceptance. We want our efforts to be recognized, our feelings to be acknowledged, and our choices to be respected. There is nothing wrong with appreciating encouragement. The problem begins when your identity becomes dependent on it. The moment your confidence relies on another person's opinion, you hand them the power to shape your emotional state. Shi Heng Yi teaches that true freedom begins within. A person who understands themselves no longer feels compelled to convince everyone else. They know who they are, they know what they value, they know the direction they are walking. Because of this inner clarity, outside opinions become background noise rather than commands that dictate their emotions. Imagine walking through a forest with a clear destination. Along the path, strangers call out different directions. One tells you to turn left, another insists you should turn right. Someone else says your destination does not even exist. If you stop to argue with each person, you may never reach where you intended to go. But if you remain focused on your path, their voices gradually fade behind you. Life works the same way. Every distraction delays progress, while every step taken with quiet confidence moves you closer to your purpose. Many people misunderstand you not because you failed to explain yourself, but because they see the world through the lens of their own experiences. A dishonest person may doubt your honesty because deception is familiar to them. An insecure person may misinterpret your confidence as arrogance. A jealous person may see your success as pride. Their judgment often reveals more about their inner world than it does about your character. This realization is incredibly freeing. It means you do not have to carry the burden of correcting every false assumption. Some people will never understand you because they are committed to a version of you that exists only in their minds. No amount of explanation can replace a perception that someone refuses to change. Think of the sun. It rises every morning and shines on every person equally. Some celebrate its warmth. Others complain about the heat. The sun does not change its nature to satisfy every opinion. It continues fulfilling its purpose regardless of how people respond. Your life should reflect that same quiet consistency. Do what is right, not what earns the loudest applause. One of the greatest traps is over-explaining. When people constantly justify every decision, they unknowingly communicate uncertainty. They seek permission to live according to their own values, yet mature decisions rarely require endless explanation. Sometimes a calm, respectful answer is enough. Sometimes no explanation is necessary at all. Your choices are not always public property. This does not mean becoming cold or dismissive. Wisdom is not about refusing communication. It is about recognizing when communication is meaningful and when it becomes a desperate attempt to earn approval. There is a profound difference between sharing your perspective with someone who genuinely wants to understand and arguing with someone who has already decided not to. Another important lesson is accepting that growth changes relationships. As you become more disciplined, more peaceful, and more focused, not everyone will celebrate your transformation. Some people were comfortable with the old version of you because it was easier to influence, easier to manipulate, or easier to predict. Your growth may challenge their expectations, and instead of adjusting, they may criticize you. Do not mistake their discomfort for evidence that you are on the wrong path. Every meaningful transformation creates distance between who you were and who you are becoming. Some people will walk with you into the next chapter of your life. Others will remain attached to the previous version of you. That is a natural part of growth. There is also wisdom in accepting silence when misunderstandings arise. Not every accusation deserves a defense. Not every rumor deserves a response. Time has a remarkable way of revealing truth. Character consistently lived speaks more loudly than carefully constructed arguments. While words can be questioned, actions repeated over years become undeniable evidence of who you truly are. Notice how rivers do not stop flowing because someone doubts their direction. Birds do not stop singing because someone dislikes their song. Nature teaches us that purpose is fulfilled through action, not through constant explanation. Likewise, your responsibility is to live your values, not to force everyone to agree with them. As you release the need to be understood, you also release the fear of judgment. You begin making decisions based on wisdom rather than popularity. You stop asking, "What will people think?" and start asking, "Is this aligned with my principles?" That single shift changes everything. It places your inner compass above the changing opinions of the crowd. The beautiful paradox is that when you stop chasing approval, you often gain more respect. Quiet confidence has a strength that endless explanation never will. People naturally trust those who remain steady under criticism, who continue acting with integrity even when misunderstood, and who refuse to compromise their values for temporary acceptance. There will always be voices offering opinions about your life. Some will praise you, others will criticize you. Some will understand your heart while others will misunderstand your intentions completely. If you allow every opinion to determine your direction, your life will become a ship without an anchor, drifting wherever the strongest voice pushes it. Real peace arrives when you realize that understanding from others is a gift, not a requirement. Your worth does not increase because someone approves of you, nor does it decrease because someone misunderstands you. When you truly understand yourself, remain faithful to your principles, and continue walking your path with humility and discipline, you discover a freedom that no criticism can take away, and no praise can improve. Every person wants a peaceful life, yet very few are willing to develop the discipline required to protect that peace. Many believe that peace comes when difficult people disappear, when circumstances improve, or when life finally becomes fair. But according to Shaolin wisdom, peace is not something the world gives you. It is something you cultivate within yourself. The stronger your inner discipline becomes, the weaker the influence of negativity becomes. Negativity is like rain. You cannot stop it from falling, but you can build a shelter that keeps you dry. Likewise, you cannot prevent criticism, betrayal, disappointment, or conflict from appearing in life. These experiences are part of the human journey. What you can control is whether they enter your heart and remain there. Discipline is the shelter that protects your mind from becoming a home for unnecessary suffering. Most people think discipline only applies to waking up early, exercising, or following a routine. Those habits are valuable, but true discipline reaches much deeper. It is the ability to guide your thoughts when fear appears. It is the strength to remain patient when frustration grows. It is the wisdom to stay silent when anger demands a response. Physical discipline strengthens the body, but emotional discipline transforms the soul. Imagine a blacksmith forging a sword. The steel is heated until it glows, then struck repeatedly with a hammer before being cooled and sharpened. The process is uncomfortable, yet without it, the sword remains weak. Life shapes you in the same way. Every challenge, every difficult person, and every painful experience is another strike of the hammer. If you embrace the lesson instead of resisting it, your character becomes stronger with every hardship. Shi Heng Yi teaches that the greatest battle is never against another person. The greatest battle is against your own undisciplined mind. An impatient mind creates unnecessary conflict. A fearful mind imagines problems that do not exist. An angry mind destroys opportunities through impulsive reactions. A disciplined mind, however, remains steady. It does not deny emotion, but it refuses to become controlled by it. One of the first areas where discipline must grow is your daily thoughts. The mind becomes whatever it repeatedly practices. Clears throat if you constantly replay painful conversations. Imagine revenge or focus on everything that went wrong. Your mind becomes trained in negativity. Eventually, even small inconveniences feel overwhelming because negativity has become your natural habit. But if you deliberately practice gratitude, patience, self-awareness, and calm reflection, your mind slowly changes direction. What you feed consistently becomes stronger. Consider a garden once again. If the gardener waters flowers every day while ignoring the weeds, beauty grows naturally. But if the weeds receive all the attention, they eventually take over the entire garden. Your thoughts work exactly the same way. Every positive habit strengthens your inner garden. Every negative habit strengthens the weeds. Discipline means choosing day after day to nourish what gives life instead of what steals it. This is why your morning routine matters so much. The first thoughts of the day often shape the rest of it. If your morning begins with worry, social media drama, complaints, or replaying yesterday's conflicts, your mind starts from a place of weakness. But if your morning begins with silence, reflection, gratitude, prayer, meditation, or mindful breathing, you prepare your mind before the world begins demanding your attention. A disciplined morning creates a disciplined day. Another powerful form of discipline is controlling what you consume. This includes not only food, but also information, entertainment, conversations, and relationships. Every piece of content you watch influences your thinking. Every conversation affects your emotional state. Every relationship shapes your perspective. If you constantly surround yourself with gossip, complaints, and pessimism, your inner world will eventually mirror what you consume. Protecting your mind means becoming selective about what enters it. Discipline also requires consistency. Many people feel inspired for a few days after hearing a motivational message. They promise themselves they will change, become calmer, and stop reacting emotionally. But when the next challenge appears, old habits return. Real transformation is not created by temporary inspiration. It is created by daily practice. A single day of discipline is encouraging. A lifetime of discipline is life-changing. Observe how water shapes stone. It does not happen through force. It happens through consistency. Drop by drop, day after day, year after year, water transforms even the hardest rock. Your daily habits work in exactly the same way. Small acts of patience, small moments of silence, small decisions to let go of anger, small choices to protect your peace. Individually, they may seem insignificant, but over time they reshape your entire character. There will always be moments when discipline feels difficult. Some days you will want to react. Some days you will feel misunderstood. Some days you will be tempted to return negativity with negativity. Those moments are not signs that you are failing. They are opportunities to strengthen the very qualities you seek to develop. Just as muscles grow through resistance, inner discipline grows through challenges. A disciplined person also accepts responsibility for their emotional state. Instead of blaming others for every unpleasant feeling, they ask themselves, "What can I learn from this?" They understand that every reaction reveals something about their own level of awareness. Each difficult encounter becomes a teacher rather than an enemy. This mindset transforms obstacles into opportunities for growth. As discipline becomes part of your identity, clears throat, something remarkable begins to happen. Situations that once disturbed you lose their power. Words that once hurt you no longer penetrate your confidence. People who once controlled your emotions discover they no longer have access to your peace. It is not because the world has changed. It is because you have changed. Eventually, you reach a place where negativity still exists around you, but it no longer exists within you. Like a mountain standing above the storm, you remain grounded while chaos passes by. Your peace is no longer dependent on perfect circumstances, kind people, or constant success. It is rooted in the quiet strength of a disciplined mind, a steady heart, and a spirit that has learned the greatest victory is not controlling the world around you, but mastering the world within.